We're waiting for the rest, the remaining 41 minutes of the second qualifying session here in Imola. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back after that here on Eurosport.
Sport Live.
Welcome back here on Eurosport. You're watching the second qualifying session for the San Marino Grand Prix, which is stopped, red flag, because of a very heavy accident by Roland Ratzenberger, who we see maneuvered into the helicopter to be taken away to the Bologna hospital. Well, I think Roland Ratzenberger is in critical condition, taken away, but we will bring you news of his condition as soon as we get it into our commentary booth. Well, John, before the break we were talking that it wasn't a very physical circuit here, but temperature does funny things to people.
Well, I say it isn't very physical because of the very long straight, although you've got the Tamburello curve, which is a bit of a white knuckle job. But there aren't very many corners on the Imola circuit that generate extremely high G-forces. You've got G-forces from heavy braking. Now, those are very high, up to 5G under braking into Tosa hairpin bend. You've got 2.5G under acceleration. So your neck essentially is the part of your body that really gets the biggest workout in a 61-lap Grand Prix at Imola. So it's the forwardness under braking and it's the rearward motion under acceleration. But the only way that you can strengthen your neck and become a physically fit racing driver in relation to neck performance is just get into the car. The more driving you do, the better your neck will cope with those conditions.
Looking over the paddock area here at Imola, and if we turn the computer to page 2, we have not been given a time the green flag will be shown. Now, John, during the commercial break, or actually just before, we saw Ayrton Senna go to the scene of the accident. What would he be discussing when he goes and watches and have a look?
Well, I would think he'd want to go down and just have a look at the area itself to see to understand in effect what happened. I mean, I'm sure that Senna was able to watch the repeats as we've been doing here in our commentary position from within his garage, but he would like to see physically where the incident took place, if he can learn anything from it, to see what damage there has been done to the concrete wall at that point, and also just to ensure that then the point where the car came to stop, which was the hairpin bend itself, is there oil in the track, is there fuel, water, what is there? As the senior driver these days in Grand Prix racing, while he hasn't got the responsibility, it is something that he would certainly take upon himself and would want to go and see and be assured that when the qualifying session recommences, that as satisfied as the stewards are and Roland Brunserauder is in charge of this race meeting, Senna himself wants to know that he is happy also.
The grandstand full of people waiting for the session to continue. We've had now some 20 minutes, just over 20 minutes of no cars going round. There's 41 minutes and 20 seconds to go in this qualifying session. Well, John, I think the most difficult thing for a driver now, for any driver in the pit lane, and maybe David Brabham in particular, is to go out and try and get pole position.
Well, in fact, Senna himself said after Barrichello's accident, I just didn't feel right. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't want to commit myself. It was just an uncomfortable feeling. And of course, being fellow Brazilians, and Rubens Barrichello is an extremely popular personality in motor racing, and there's a very close association in team personnel between Williams and the Jordan team. And in a sense, I think Senna looks upon Barrichello as being his little baby brother. The fact that Rubens would want to be out there and snatch any points away from Senna he possibly could, in fact, isn't an issue. And Senna again went down to the medical center when Rubens was receiving his attention, just to see how he was and to give him his reassurance and best wishes for a very speedy recovery. And in fact, that recovery has been so speedy. We have seen Rubens walking around just before the start of this session, feeling very fit, bearing in mind what was, for him, I think the biggest accident he's probably had in his career.
Just saw Clay Regazzoni saying hello to fellow Swiss Mario Ilian of Ilmer Engineering, building the Mercedes engine, and Mario actually building a very interesting engine for the Penske team, John. It's a Mercedes engine, and it's a very interesting one, specially designed for the Indy 500.
Yeah, they have regulations which allow push rod activation of the camshaft, only one camshaft, but you're allowed a bigger cubic capacity and a higher boost pressure. But of course, it's the new Ilmor engine here this weekend, which is now designated Mercedes-Benz. That is the focus of interest, and they've got a pneumatic valve V10 and also a changeover to Marelli Magneti ignition system. Well, coming down now to one of these sort of tricky and fiddly chicanes. Many years ago there was no chicane before Acqua Minerale, but the approach to it got to be so fast that was deemed to be the most prudent step to take. Still a difficult corner, the actual Minerale corner itself, but when you rush down the hill without a chicane, it was interesting.
Katayama still riding with him. He's a little bit slower now than he was on the previous lap, and there's more and more drivers out on the circuit. Johnny Herbert's out there, Christian Fittipaldi just leaving the pit lane, and Katayama starting what is going to be his 8th lap of the afternoon, 23.343. That's fairly close, but a little bit slower. There's Johnny Herbert, the team waiting for the new Lotus 109, and basically the team is off the pace.
Well, also with the Mugen V10 Honda engine, a much more difficult engine to install and basically to control, a lot taller, a lot longer, and essentially quite a lot heavier, although the weight did get reduced during the course of 93 when the footwork team ran the engine. They did manage to develop a few lighter components, but compared to the Ford HP engine that Lotus ran last year, the installation of a longer, taller, heavier engine only exaggerates any problem that you might have had with that Ford HB.
Johnny coming onto the straight, and the time is going to be a 26.3. And that's not nor an improvement of his best, nor a very reasonable time. He's in 20th place at the moment. The good thing about that package is, John, that it's very reliable indeed. Johnny's had 2 7th places so far this year, and, well, with a bit of luck, that could have easily been a point or two.
And in fact, in Autosport, one of the British motorsport periodicals, weekly periodicals, there's a thing called the Fantasy Grand Prix, and ironically Johnny Herbert's been scoring pretty heavily for a lot of people, and that includes fantasy.
So who's out there? Nicola Larini in the Ferrari, going past the pits now, and I'm surprised the Italian television hasn't picked him up yet, but he is definitely out there. Also Gianni Morbidelli and Mark Blundell, who is now, well, being put back by his teammate, so he will try and get into the top 8. Martin Brundle crossing the line. He will start his first flying lap now. Well, we are still riding with Johnny Herbert, who will come into the pits.
Well, I suspect that was Johnny Herbert's original set of tyres, the ones that we saw him spinning into the grass just in front of the entrance into the pits.